What we have here is a Harbor Freight 100-watt Thunderbolt solar panel, and there's plenty of videos on these solar panels. To do a review on them is really not necessary for me at this time. The one thing I do want to review is how to install an MC4 connector onto these wires. I don't know what size these wires are exactly, and they have a different end on it. I think these are, I don't know exactly what these are called, but they're not watertight. They're a good connector used on a lot of appliances, but the MC4 connector is designed specifically with solar in mind. That's the male connector. And this is the female connector. These connectors, there's a lot of videos on them too, telling you, with the male connector, you need the female end to go with the male, and then you want the male end to go with the female. Kind of confusing, I know, but that's the way it's got to be. Another thing that I found is that the wire size is small enough that this connector will not squeeze down tight enough to be solid on the wire. But I solved that with a little bit of steps that I'm going to show you here. Now what I'm doing here is I will just split that wire in the middle using a utility knife. This splitting it allows me to cut off sections without having problems with shorting it out. Now what you want to do is strip off about 1/4 inch of that insulation. Roughly about that much. And then we're going to strip off the other side. Same thing, around 1/4 inch. Now I'm going to show you what I've done to these connectors to modify them and get them to fit. Well, first thing, I'm going to put one of those wires in there and tighten this up. Okay, I've inserted a wire and I've tightened it up as far as it can go. But if you pull on this, right out. Now inside here, if I can get it open with one hand, I had it cranked down all the way and still wasn't tight on the wire. But if you get inside here, you'll see what tightens down. This is what tightens down on the wire with a crushing action. But it doesn't quite get tight enough. Now this sets in the fitting like so. And you don't want to put that in there backwards because it won't tighten down. But what I have done to these to make them tight enough is if you look on this edge here, you can see like there's little indents and markings and stuff. if you take a piece of sandpaper and you rub these down, like so, hard to do with one hand, I'll get right back at you when I got this sanded down. So I took the cap off the male fitting to show you those markings again, those fittings right there. You see them pretty good in the light. Now you take that and put it on some sort of sandpaper, preferably a finer grit, and then sand it down till you can't see those marks anymore. If it focuses right, can you see the differences? Okay. Now it hasn't sanded down much. Those indents aren't really deep, but it sands down just enough that you can tighten that up on the fitting a little bit farther and get it to be snug and watertight. Now, as far as these caps, they're interchangeable. These inserts that tighten down on the wire are interchangeable. They're the same on both the male and the female fittings. Now, after I've sanded that down, then I take a fine file and we file the edges smooth. And then I take and get the burr off the outside edge, just so it's a little bit neater. There you go. There you go. All right, now when you assemble, it'll be tight. Now I always start with the male end. Remember that male end gets the female fitting. So you can see this is the male, this is the female. They'll slide into each other. So the female goes with the male. And then we'll put the male with the female and set it to the side. Okay. Got that over there away from things. Now, I haven't sanded this cap yet, so let me sand that down. We'll be right back with you. Okay, I've sanded down the other one. Now, most of the time what you want to do is you want to put, since we're going to use the male connector which goes on the red wire, you want to put the cap on, and you want to put this on. Remember, going in the right direction. Another thing I should point out, that the width of that fitting, let's see if I can do this, is the same width of the anvil part of that. See that? See, that is the same width. There, it focused. So you put it until it's flush and just start to squeeze it down till it clicks, and then you can insert your wire and finish squeezing it to the crimp. Now, you just bring this on up. And tighten it down. I'm going to pause it for a second while I tighten down. There, it's all tightened down. If you look on the end there, it's crimped right on down onto the wire, and you cannot pull that out of there. So that makes a watertight fitting. I've seen a lot of videos doing MC4 fittings onto these Harbor Freight panels, but no one explained to me that I've seen that if you sand this cap down, then it fits tight onto this finer wire. So remember, you got the male fitting onto the red. I'm going to put the female fitting on the black. And that's it for this video. Please like and subscribe. Thank you.